Your question, Karen, is about reviews.
Reviews. Yep. I mean,
Like
I
how to
have
collect
absolutely
them?
no problem with everything other than, and yes, I'll give you, you know what, I send the link, nothing, cricket. I mean, some, yes, but not to the
Okay,
extent that they
so
should be.
mine is multi-pronged, so I'll talk you through it.
Thank
So,
you.
I mean, I do think that in the right circumstance, you just say to the person at the end of the session, so how do you feel? And they say, I feel amazing. I can't believe that happened. And you just, in that very level two kind of way, in that, MACH kind of way, say, well, what would really help me would be a review. And it really helps other people to, invest in this. So I would love it if you would do that. So I do suggest that, at
Okay.
the end of the session, I would say half the time, just because it seems natural. I definitely don't insert it if we're on a whole, like I just finished a session, she was talking about herself and her goals and I'm not gonna like insert it right then because
Right. But when
that's
they're
not,
laughing and telling you that, what problem, I can't
yeah,
believe it.
exactly,
Yeah.
right. Well,
Okay, thank you, because I've never done that at the end of a session. I've never tried that.
just let me say, when we're talking about it, it sounds a little bit like a sales tactic, but the fact is, it's real. I mean, what really does work is when somebody sees a review and feels confident based on that and then calls you. That's a very good way to help them on their process.
Right.
So there's nothing really, I mean, salesy about it. Like that's the process of hypnosis, is that we're in the
No, thank
hypnosis
you, because
business.
that alone, just saying it that way at
Yeah.
the end, because I say the same thing, but I wait,
Right.
so
Well, that's why I'm saying is I think part of the limit is that we think like, well, I'm not going to ask for something for me now.
right.
But when you see it as like, well, this is my purpose and this is the whole industry, I mean, then it
Yeah.
becomes kind of
Thank you. You've reframed
natural.
it to
Yeah.
where it's like that makes a lot more sense. Like you say,
Moreover, then their transformation has more value because now they're saying, oh, you're right. I did find something good, and also somebody else can benefit. So now we're really actually creating, like that meme that everyone sees on Facebook of one match next to a bunch of matches, and then all the matches catch on fire. But
yep,
that's the transformation business is you suffered with your loss, which I happen to know about, which ignited your fire, which has led you through a lot of clients, which now that fire continues on through them. So
yeah.
this is the process of transformation.
And it's just an ask, and it's just
Yeah,
like you say, in the
exactly.
moment where they are high, they
Yeah,
are.
right. Well, and it's also the moment where they most have the ability to describe it. So why wouldn't you say it right then? So
Okay,
I
so
think there's
yeah.
that, and then my secondary thing is my Calendly is programmed to email them that request with the link embedded in the email 15 minutes after
Oh,
the official end of the call.
oh, I like that. Thank you. I'm writing that down.
I like that a lot because, for one thing, if I do happen to say, could you do it? It's not like, okay, where and how do I figure that out? Because
Right.
then it's like right in their email. So either they agree and then they sit in their car and look at their email, or everyone checks this is why I programmed it this way, because everyone checks their phone right after the session.
Right.
Like how many people actually go lay down? No, every
Yeah.
single person checks their Facebook
First,
first.
yes, right.
Right.
So
So
is that your Google review that you're putting in the Calendly
I
then?
put the Google review, and there's also, I have a little blurb that says, thank you so much for coming. It was great having you. If you have any questions, of course, you can always find me here. I'm very open to your feedback at any time. I would love it if you would leave me a review on Google. Here's the link. If you do not feel comfortable with your name being published, please feel free to just respond to this email with your review, and I'll remove your name.
Love it.
And
Thank
then
you.
it's very open for them. Some people save it and use it 3 weeks or 3 months later. I've heard people tell me that too. So there's no pressure, but I want it available to them because either I just asked them or they just had a good experience and are now checking their phone.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And that is exactly what I've been doing is waiting too long. And
Yeah,
yes, they say, sure, but then their life has gone on because obviously their problem is gone. So
exactly. And by the way, that's how I ended up with that approach was I never want a reason to interrupt somebody later. Like, I'm really serious when I tell people process is process, and I'm not a party to that. I want to be because I'm curious and I'm sort of nosy. But like facts are facts. Like the job is get out of the way. So I have to be true to that. Like I can't plan it so that, oh, and my business would benefit if I actually did interrupt you later, because that violates my own principle.
Right.
So my
And
principle is that when I see them, it's solved, and that's the last opportunity I get to talk to them. I'm not saying it's precluding the possibility that they call me up later. I just had someone come in for a third because she said, it worked and it worked, and now I still feel nervous. And I'm pretty sure we got it this time. But like that might happen. That's okay. But I want her after that first and second one to really think we're done because that's the hypnosis
right.
process.
So let me ask you this. Are you asking after the first session or the follow-up session or both? Or does it matter?
I mean, in my mind, we're always done.
Right.
Like sometimes I have a sneaking suspicion that we're not. So obviously I trust that and follow that too. But I ask as soon as I feel that it's the right opportunity. Certainly,
Intuition.
if
Okay.
somebody ends the session feeling a little bit like, oh, I don't even know what we did and my process is not obvious to me, I don't ask them at that moment because that's not a good moment. It would make no sense. So I really have to like trust my feeling.
And then I have one other question. Thank
You
you. No,
know when
no, that's
somebody is
great.
ready.
Yeah, and the reason that makes sense when you're saying that is because when I was doing more exclusively, PTSD, and it was a lot of combat vets, and it was a lot of first
Yeah,
responders and things like that. And believe it or not, I don't know if it had been, like 30 years that they'd been dealing with it. The problem's gone. And
right.
they're going, it wasn't so bad.
Yeah,
Because once it's gone, it's like that headache
right.
that once it leaves, you don't remember the pain of it. So, and their
Totally.
family's going, what the fuck, it was nothing but horror
And
for.
that's exactly the moment where you say, I know, isn't that the weirdest thing? Isn't that wild? I would really appreciate it if you could just explain that to others because there's so many people like you who have your exact same situation and who need to know.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
and, and that's so genuine. Like it sound like I can already hear my students' minds saying, but that's, trying to get other people to hire you. But that's it. Yes, I am. I'm trying to get other people who are suffering with the same thing
Right.
to understand that their condition is temporary,
But like you say,
which
you're
is
you're
the
true
fact.
to yourself. It's as far as this is your service, and so
That's right.
them exactly giving the review is part of
And by the way, like I think this highlights an interesting tension inside of our business, which is how much do we believe in the speed element, and how much are we just banking on the hypnosis? Like it took me all these years, and I think you and I have been doing it, you know, in the parallel development, but it took me a long time to really like own the fact that it's both. The speed does really matter to me, and it really matters to the outcome. It really matters to my results. There's nothing wrong with just acknowledging that without adding a layer of, oh, and if it does take some time, that's also not a problem.
yeah.
But like I really do pitch from that angle at this point.
It's funny. It's interesting when you say that because I actually, since we started the incubator, what are you calling this, the class here? And you said you do these 3 sessions or offer 3, and for $2,500, a lot of the pushback at first was, you mean for one session? And the people that bought, obviously they saw that it was very,
Yep.
the results were there and it was gone. But that there's a mindset, that convincing people. So I did the 3 and I'm doing it like you, even though I know I still only need one. And that's all I
Yeah.
was really going with was one. But I think it makes sense to people because it's the society is used to sessions and
Yeah.
all that type of.
And I just need to edit that though because I like that I like having meetings with just you and I because I think we're both working at that same level of like, well, what is the actual offering right now, given
Mhm.
my expertise level and my income level? What is that actual product? I mean, I think it's an interesting question to be asking. What do I really feel I can stand behind. Because if I really deeply thought I was a one session wonder, I would pitch it. But like deep down, I really want my follow up. Like that's just me and my clinic. I really do want the follow-up session. I need the person to come back and I guess affirm me. I mean, if I really get down to my own ACH problems, like I think deep down, like I don't want them to just go out into the universe after one. I want the opportunity to like clean it up and check it and test it one more time. So like I'm just selling what I actually think is my
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah.
And I'm
And
not
that's
saying that's
why,
always going to be the case. I mean, I might move up to the Erickson level and say 12 minutes with me is a lot.
but that's why I added more, just
Right.
thinking that, because it made sense to me to follow up. And I never did like the not following up, even though I
Yeah.
knew it was gone, all that type of thing. And but I think I'm going to go back to just two and forget that third one.
I think that's a good idea, and I'm really playing with that too. I mean, for whatever reason, I feel like my niche still does tend to attract people who are solving a problem and then there's some like rebuilding of their life. And that tends to be what occurs in the third visit if they come for that. So I don't know. I guess you're right. Like somewhere in deep inside of me, I haven't made a full resolution about that.
Yeah, I am. Thank you. I've just made my mind up. I am going back to just the two because I was only doing one, but there was always that part of me that was wondering,
And I mean, there's always a question mark in my head, if more, then more. I mean, like I was just doing a third visit right now this morning, and it did cross my mind, like, well, a half an hour into it, I didn't feel like we were getting anywhere, although we did an amazing, huge amount in the last 90 minutes, which to me was the thing we had been waiting for the whole time. But I'm just saying it did cross my mind, like, well, if I get to the end of this one and she's still where she is right now, am I going to say to her, okay, in a month, give me a call? And I would. I would. I'm not that exclusive that, like, if I don't get the job done, I'm not so proud that I can't say, okay, let's keep going. That just doesn't happen, is the thing.
right. And I think people, I feel like, especially after it's a very intimate, having the
Yeah,
conversation
exactly.
with them and stuff. And when you get to that level, I think that I've had
That's right.
people feel comfortable enough to, if they did have a question or a
Exactly.
concern, call back rather than me having to say, you have a third
That's
one in
right.
your back pocket to use. And
I agree
I
with
think that's
that.
confusing. It's confusing to me a little bit. So I think I'm going to just eliminate that.
I think you're exactly right. The rapport should be such that you don't have to worry that somebody would want to avoid you to not ask for what they need. I
Yeah.
mean, no, that's exactly what the whole point of the intimacy is. I mean, it
Yeah.
was so funny that guy on the airplane was like, "Oh, I feel like we had an affair." It was funny feedback because I was like, it's so true. It's like intimate in a
It's
way that
very intimate,
you
I
can't,
mean,
right?
I used to be a hairstylist and there's
Right.
touching somebody's head,
Yeah,
you hear people's sex lives that they wouldn't tell their
totally.
therapist, by touching their head there. That gives people the freedom. And I think when
I
we,
know, but Karen, we need to like you and I talk about it like it's obvious, but I think the students who are watching, it's very it's hard to get to that level of like let's just cover everything. And I mean all your intimate things, like your past and your sex life and your fetishes and your fears and your fear of death and your like that's what makes ACH and this whole, hypnotic process so compressive, but you have to wager a lot of yourself and of your reputation or whatever to be able to go there time and time again with all these different
but to
people.
me, that's what makes it so fascinating
I
because
agree.
it never goes to where we know it's a
Totally.
problem and da 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 da. And then all of
Totally.
a sudden out of the blue, you hear what it really
Well,
is.
and it weirds me out when people are like, well, how do you know you're at the subconscious? Like, well, it's kind of obvious. I mean, like, when's the last time you had this kind of revelation with somebody you don't know? Like, never?
Okay, that's leading me to a question I've gotten twice now recently on discovery calls of questioning that, the process a bit, and it's like I feel like I'm having to defend it and having to explain it. And it's like I almost feel like I don't want to work with that client just
No.
because, and I don't, and I kind of dissuade them and I just really kind of lead it to where, okay, when you're ready, da da da, but once they start challenging me of how it works
Yeah,
and
but I
really,
always pull it. I like to pull my little Erickson when people really challenge me like that. Like yesterday, a guy took me through an hour. He was tough. He was a CEO, software, money, like really somebody who knows life. And he took me through the whole process. I mean, I took him through the whole process, but we were definitely both there together. And he was like, great, sign me up. I need it. And then at the very end, I could just sense something was sticking there. So I said, so what's on your mind? And he said, like, really? Does this work? Like that
yeah,
was crazy what you just said. He was like, I actually need to think about it.
yeah,
And I mean, so you have two options right there. One is to be like, oh, fuck you and fuck this whole thing and this sucks because I just spent a whole hour explaining it and now you're gonna pull that out. But actually, I bring out my inner Erickson then and say, I love the skepticism. I super welcome it. It's such a fun challenge for me. And I know you understood what I just said, so I know you understand where I'm coming from. But I appreciate that you're being
I
honest
love that. Thank you.
yeah. And by the way, that again, like you and I are going to just have the same conversation until the cows come home, which is I'm just honest. That's my whole brand. Is just like that's honest. And that's true. I love a client like that who's
Yeah.
like really difficult and intense and intelligent and wants it for themselves, and then who's also willing to like tell the truth, which is like, are you fucking shitting me? Like, really? Because isn't that what you would feel if you weren't the professional? I mean, if somebody told me, okay, for $2,500, I'm going to solve this hesitation you've had about whatever your business for 20 years, I would probably also be a little bit like, but then if I was willing to listen to their training and how they got there and that, I mean, like, God damn, Karen, you and I have both had tragic stories like behind all of this. If we piled all of that on and you really got to know why I have that insight into you, well, then it's believable.